All right, so it's Thursday, May 21st, I believe, and we are live this morning. We're going to try something a little bit new with StreamYard. Normally, we do our podcast we used to use Ringer, but we had some problems with Ringer, so we switched to Zoom, just audio on Zoom. And we thought we would try to do a StreamYard podcast. So while we're doing it live, people are welcome to join in, ask questions. We'll answer them at the end of the session. And we're going to get started and be in podcast mode here in just a second. Are you ready, Charlie Grace?
I am ready.
All right, let's get going. Aloha and welcome to our podcast. I'm Brad Solomon, and along with my wife and two large breed dogs, we are commonly found across social media as Paws in Effect. Christina's unable to join today, so it'll just be me. And our mission is primarily focused on all things positive with a passion to pay it forward to help people, animals, and our environment as we travel nearly full time across the mainland US. This podcast gives us more freedom in highlighting various charities that we meet during our travels. And like most of you, those travels stopped for the last couple of months. And we are doing social distancing from our homes right now. But along the way, we have met many new friends while at home, thanks to YouTube. So we've still been able to keep those travel memories there and meet new friends. And one of those new friends is an organization called Forever Best Friend. And joining us today is the founder of Forever Best Friend, Charlie Grace. Welcome, Charlie Grace. Thank you so much for taking time to share with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, first question is, I met you recently, and I know a little bit about Forever Best Friend, but why don't you tell us what Forever Best Friend is and where our listeners can find you all across the net and even in person when we get back out on the road?
Awesome. Well, Forever Best Friend started as just a comment that we were talking one day in a dog park. You know, you go to other dog parks, you meet other people, and we happen to have a sort of a famous dog, and it was one of those things where we said, you know what? We really just, I think the bottom line is it's about community. It's how do you talk about your relationship with your forever best friend, and how do you connect with others that sort of feel the same way about their forever best friend? And that sort of just blossomed out of that. And then on top of that, the extra added layer, of course, is that we also travel a lot. And we had a passion for making sure that a lot of rescues were getting the necessities that they needed to make sure that they made that connection. So we wanted to make sure that as we were traveling and doing our meeting other people, that we were actually able to give back. So giving back is something that's very important to us, and making sure that we recognize that all of our dogs have been rescues, and not every dog is as fortunate as maybe the ones that we get to adopt. And we want to make sure that we are able to help them find their forever best friend.
That's an awesome mission, awesome program. We'll talk about Rosie Bell, that famous dog, in just a minute. But YouTube, you're somewhat new to. Can you kind of tell us how and why, when you decided to create Forever Best Friend, how you chose which mechanism, website, Facebook, Instagram, those types of things?
Sure, absolutely. So, we started on Instagram, actually just starting pictures and showing what we were doing. And my background's actually in photojournalism, and I love taking photos. And so one of the things that I could do when we talk about time and talents and service, we would go to these events, and I would offer these events. I said, you know what, we are more than happy to take photos of all of your attendees with their pets, because that's something that is a lifelong treasure that they can have with that pet. So we would do that. We would take pictures. People would line up all around the event, and we'd have this nice big backdrop saying Forever Best Friend, and from that we just started posting them on Instagram, and people would follow, and next thing you know, we have like 50,000 followers on Instagram. So we thought, gosh, we're going to have to do something on Facebook too, because we had different people go to different platforms, and that's awesome. So then we have a Facebook group and a Facebook page, and our group right now is actually more dog centric, which is fun. So we have a Forever Best Friend / dog lovers group, which is fun. So we have people who are more into kittens, we have people who are more into dogs. It just depends on where they are on the spectrum. But so that's really how we started, was just sort of going in that direction. And then when it came to YouTube, people were saying, you know what, you guys are hilarious. You really just need to put something up on YouTube. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really like very personal. And do I really want to go there? And we do have a big family, and I had to talk to my family about it and say, are you willing to put your lives out for the world to see? And they're like, oh yeah, they've got to see this. They have no idea what we have to deal with. So this is great.
Even if something happens like almost setting your kitchen on fire on Easter
Exactly
Sunday.
right. I think it's important that you're honest with your viewers. I mean, if you're creating a relationship now with people, they need to know who you are, and understand all your quirks, and know what your true heart is. I think that's important.
I agree. So I would also love to hear a bit more about Rosie Bell. We featured her on our game nights as part of our paparazzi game, and we know she is the most famous rescue dog in the South. Can you share a little bit more about her with us?
Oh my gosh. So Rosie Bell is a dream. She's just a sweetheart. We adopted her a little over 2 years ago. And so she's about 2.5-year-old Labrador mix, but she also has dwarfism. So she's a red dog. She sort of matches my hair, which is my kids will say, Mom, I can't believe you got another pet that matches your hair. So that's sort of funny. But we started out as my kiddo said, why don't we start putting pictures of Rosie on Instagram? And I'm like, okay. So we started doing her little journey and talking about things as if it were her. And we got a phone call saying, how would you like to be the Adopt Don't Shop spokesdog for the state of Tennessee? And we're like, what does that mean exactly? So next thing you know, we're going on tour and we're going to different humane societies and different rescues all over the state of Tennessee. And we're talking to people about the gift of what it is to rescue a dog and to allow that into your life. And it's more importantly, if you want to foster a dog, to go through that process. And next thing you know, it goes from Tennessee to Georgia, from Georgia to Alabama, from Alabama to Mississippi, Florida. We're just all over the Southeast region. And she has hundreds of thousands of followers with her mission, of course, is to adopt, don't shop.
That's fantastic, and that message of Adopt Don't Shop is wonderful. We've met so many people that rescue animals. It's fantastic. It's almost amazing to me that we've met so many, but yet there's still so many waiting. There's just so many people, I guess, that surrender them and then get another one and then surrender it. It's you can't keep up with the demand. But I think you mentioned you have had rescue dogs before as well, correct?
Absolutely. Oh yes. I will be the first to admit I'm a foster fail. I mentioned fostering before. So a lot of these shelters don't have a facility that they can put them in. They need
Right.
people to foster them and take care of them. So a friend of mine was running a rural shelter, and she came actually to my work with this little dog, a little Chihuahua. And we, like you, we've had little to big, like Great Dane. And this is the first time I've ever had a little dog. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. I need to think about this for a second. And it was a little Chihuahua, and fleas were jumping off, and it was just a very sad situation. And she's like, you promised me if I was ever in a pinch that you would help me foster. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And so I took her in, and then 6 years later, she was still with us, of course.
Yeah. So we were almost a foster fail. So we with Priscilla, before Priscilla, we found this organization called Forever Friends Great Danes, and we did the foster program because I didn't want another dog full time, is what I said. But I also said I didn't want another dog with our first dog because I was heartbroken when we lost our first husky, or not our first husky, but our husky before Presley. Her name was Sage. So we fostered this little boy named Zeus. He was 2 years old, and he was a wonderful Great Dane. Both Chris and I fell in love with him, wanted to keep him, but the part of the program, the honor system was you're supposed to complete the first foster and find the forever home for that first foster. And then after that, if you get your second foster, you're allowed to keep the second foster. And so we followed those rules, even though we talked about just disappearing with the dog. And we found Zeus a fantastic home in Wisconsin. And then a few months later, we saw this puppy, Priscilla, and we ended up adopting Priscilla. So yeah, fostering is fantastic, but you've got to have a little bit thick skin and a big heart, but a big enough heart to be able to let go and take that dog to a forever family.
And I think that's important because we were talking about that the other day. That is one of my crazy weird gifts, that I'm able to connect people with the right pet. So sometimes you find pets that you think might be a good fit, and it may not be a really good fit for your family. Like you might be looking at a particular breed or a mixed breed, and you think, well, I think I want a golden doodle. And there are golden doodle rescues out there. There are a lot of purebred rescues that you can look at and whatever, to go look and see what you can find. But then at the end of the day, you might go to a shelter and go, you know what, that pity mix is probably the best thing I could do with my family because their temperament or their disposition. So some people who get very breed centric don't really look at the whole picture. And I think that's really important to think about.
Yeah, I know in our case, we had puppies years ago, and puppies are challenging. They're a lot more work than getting, well, in many cases. Some rescues that might come from a danger or a tough situation or a dangerous situation that they were in, they might have developed some things. But I know for us, every rescue dog we got, and even Priscilla, she was 9 months old when we finally got her, 4 months when we put in the application, but it took us 5 months. She still had some puppy stuff, but not the potty training. All that was done. So for us, our rescue dogs have been our best dogs, the absolutely best dogs, most loyal, easiest to take care of. Priscilla had some issues with separation anxiety, but all in all, they've been fantastic experiences. And so I believe you also, I noticed on your website, you have a blog and you mentioned some tips about adopting a dog on your blog. So people can check that out if they want some tips. And you also, besides just connecting people and with animals and animal lovers with each other and adopt, don't shop, you have a whole bunch of different topics on your blog. So you want to talk about that for a second?
Sure. So one of the things, of course, we're passionate about is we like to go traveling, and we always say living your life, but living your best life with your dog. So how can you do that with your dog? And some of those tips that we talk about, we are partnering with Mars Pet Care on their Better Cities for Better Pets campaign, which is important. So going to every town and talking to local businesses, and when you get to a new town, and I'm going to pick on my hometown, Franklin, Tennessee, which I love. So when you decide to go downtown, you can bring your dog with you. You can bring your dog in all the stores and go shopping. It doesn't have to be a service animal. It doesn't have to be a therapy animal. So there's lots of ways, that you can work around and make those things happening. So a lot of our tips and tricks are one for those who are traveling, which is great. A lot of people are terrified to bring their dogs out. So whether it's behavioral issues that you need to overcome, or training with your dog on specific commands to make sure that they're more pet friendly and ready to be out in public, that's important.
Definitely. And besides the love of dogs, you mentioned earlier another thing that we have in common, and that's traveling in our RV. Quite often, I don't know how full time you are, we're in our RV somewhere around 40 to 45 weeks a year, so almost full time. Can you share a little bit about how that started, how you started traveling full time, and what that experience has been like?
Oh, I love traveling. Well, we started traveling one because we had to go to a lot of these different events for Rosie. And as you start thinking about this, you're like, well, we have two choices. We can either take the Jeep and just go to hotels, and we found that to not exactly be the best experience for us personally. That was not what I preferred, and I've always wanted RV, and so I went out one day and brought home an RV. And as most people will tell you, the first time you buy one, it probably wasn't the one you needed. It was just one you thought you needed. So we're on our second RV, which we'll probably get a third RV down the road. But we love it, and we go to a lot of different campgrounds. We go to a lot of different sites. We do a lot of boondocking, and we love things like Harvest Host, places we can go to different spaces. This just past weekend, we were at Kentucky Land Between the Lakes, and we actually went to the Paris Winery. I bet most people don't know there's a Paris, Tennessee. So we
Hmm.
got our picture near the Eiffel Tower in Paris, Tennessee. So we just like looking at all the quirky Americana places and just meeting everyday folks. That's really what it's about for us.
We lived in Murray, Kentucky for 5 years, and Paris is just about 20 minutes from south of Murray, Kentucky, 25 minutes there. And in fact, our daughter still lives outside of Murray. So we go to Land Between Lakes once or twice a year at least. And sometimes we're just camped in her front yard, which is only about, I think, 15 minutes from Paris Landing there. Beautiful area, rural, great for outdoor stuff, and also motorcycle riding is fun down there as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, so you talked about events, and I wasn't certain what you meant by events, but when you said events that you're attending, that's Rosie Bell's events where you're taking her to the Adopt Don't Shop events, not like dog shows or things like that, right?
Well, there's a lot of different events like that, but mainly we like the big festivals. I think the festivals are more fun. I know I was watching one of your videos, and I was seeing one of the festivals you guys went to. It was a bike festival, I
Hmm.
think. We go to things like, let's see, Bark of the Park in Lebanon,
Uh,
Tennessee, which is an amazing festival. And I think, oh gosh, we had like 3 or 5 thousand people that just showed up and came and got dog food and got their pictures made, and tons of vendors and lots of different things. And then we also do a lot of Kentucky Humane. Lexington, Kentucky does wagon trails, where they do this whole thing where dogs are walking around this big trail, and it's a big fundraiser for them. And then there's lots of vendors and other things, happiness for the kids. So we really enjoy participating in those. It's not that we don't mind doing the meet and greets. We like the meet and greets. We'll show up, and Rosie will sit there, and people take their pictures with her, and we'll have coloring pages and lots of fun things like that. But the big events are just more fun, I think.
Now, have the events started being rescheduled or opening up yet, or is everything still kind of canceled at this point?
Yeah, so our whole calendar just went out the window. A lot of our things that were supposed to happen right now, our first event starts in September. So September through November is okay at this point in time, but we just don't know. So I think Bark of the Park has been rescheduled, and I know Nashville Shores, actually they closed down the entire water park, and they leave the last day of the year, they leave it open to all the dogs. So we'll be there for a big dog splash.
Yeah, we meant to do that last year. I can't remember where we were at, but there was a place we were going to take them to, and it ended up raining all day long. And it was an outdoor pool, and so we ended up not going to that. But that's one of the things in the 2 years that we've been traveling. Just, I think it's partially because me working, I don't have time to really investigate the events, and we're moving around, finding the event, the dog-focused events to go to. We go to quite a few events, but we've been had trouble finding the dog-focused events. We use Bring Fido, but it just seems like we haven't been in the right place at the right time. So I would love to get a list at some point from you on the events that you're going to attend, and maybe we can weave one of those into our travel calendar. That would be fun.
Absolutely. And for those who are looking, this has been a challenge for me as well. So we do actually have a calendar on our website at foreverbestfriend.com when we're going and what we're going to be that month for those events. So that's always a good place to look. But if I think we are going to do a much more extensive calendar across the United States, hopefully next year, for lots of people who are on both sides of the coast for places they can go.
Now, during the lockdown, you basically had to kind of modify, and I think you're doing some virtual meetups, or what they're called, Yappy Hours. Can you kind of talk to us about how that come about and how that's going for you?
So this has been a lot of fun. I'm telling you, we used to do all these dog park meetups in different places all over the South, and have scheduled places where people could meet up and talk about their pets. And so, because of the change of everyone being home, we decided, you know what, we're going to host our Yappy Hour online every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on our channel on Forever Best Friend, and it has been a hoot. It's just everyone comes in, they chat, they hang out. We bring people in and out. We try to have a special guest or two, which is nice, and maybe even a couple trivia questions to get people on their toes. And the conversation just sort of weaves in and out, which is really fun. So we've had a dog trainer, lead the way dog trainer over in Philadelphia come in. We've had someone from The Dog and Us talk about how they're traveling full time on their RV with their rescue dog that they brought over all the way from Australia to the United States. So that's interesting, talking about how the whole thing is going. And tonight we're going to have someone who's actually rescuing 2 dogs today. And yesterday was National Adopt a Dog Day. So it's really exciting to talk and find out their journey and how that's going.
Yeah, Sue actually emailed me and let me know she's going to be a guest on tonight. We're going to try to tune in as well and be there. So they just lost their dog about 2 weeks ago, and one of the shelters, I guess, that knew them contacted them and said, "We've got I think it was a Sheltie, or I can't, yeah, I think it's a Sheltie, was the first one. Her name's Maggie, and they were going to pick her up last weekend. And then I just found out last night they've actually got another dog that they're going to get along with Maggie today. So that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to hopefully see pictures and get to hear about that story tonight on the Yappy Hour. So everybody tune in tonight at 7 for the Yappy Hour on Forever Best Friend. So on events, if you had to pick one event, either for the remainder of this year, or even if it's one that got canceled this year, that we should consider to put on our calendar next year, is there one event that stands out that is a can't miss dog event?
Oh, wow. There really are so many. I hate to tell you that. There's a lot of great things. I'm going to go with something centrally located. And I think I mentioned it before, which is Wagon Trails for the Kentucky Humane Society. It's a lot of fun. They had it at the Tower Park, and I think they're going to have it at Cardinal Park this upcoming year. So it's something that everyone can go to. There's tons of camping around there if you want to bring your RV, lots of vendors, lots of really cool things to see. And it's a great way to sponsor and help out the Kentucky Humane Society.
That's awesome. And that's not too far from us. Like I said, we spent some time in Kentucky. So we would love to get more involved in some of the dog events, because I think Chris and I have talked, and going into 2020, we said we want to do more with charity and we want to do more dog events. We're trying to mold the channel to do that, along with our love of motorcycle riding as well. So those are really our 3 core themes. So let's see here. Out of it, and I guess it doesn't even really have to be one of your dogs, but do you know of a specifically interesting, unique rescue story that you learned about since meeting others through your various social media channels? Is there any particular stories that stand out?
You know what? We've heard the whole gamut, which is a lot of fun. But I think I'm going to talk about one that I just heard this weekend, which is very near and dear to my heart. I met a little teeny tiny 8-year-old little girl. Her name's Jenna, and she's a sweetheart. And all of a sudden, I said, "I have a dog named Rosie," and she said, "Oh, so do I. I just got my dog 2 days ago." And I said, "Really? Where did you do that?" It came out of the woods. It was going to be going to a rescue shelter. They called the shelter, and they were able to keep it without going through the processing. They were like fostering this dog. It is a 8-month-old dachshund. So the first thing you think of when you think of dachshund, you don't think, this must be someone else's dog. This has got to be a lost dog somewhere. The owner actually showed up and said, yes, this is our dog, but we'd be more than happy for you to have this forever friend of this little dachshund named Rosie. And it was the sweetest thing. She's an only child, and she desperately needed a friend. And this is really one of those stories where you sit back and go, going through the right process of, is this a lost dog? Is there a shelter that can help me and make sure we're, spayed and neutered and getting all the right shots and medical attention, and then making sure that that dog fits that right profile and that right person. I can't think of a better happy ending story than that.
Absolutely, that's a great story, and we've heard so many on our podcast. It was one I can't even remember. I think it was Husky Haven of Florida, and the way she got into it was adopting or helping out with this dog named Dallas, and I believe if I remember correctly, he had one or two of his legs amputated, and they wanted to just put him down, and she basically helped save him and make sure he found a forever home that would take care of him. So they really focus on those pets with special needs, and it's just, those kind of things are just wonderful stories.
Absolutely.
And so both of our channels are really focused on that positivity, paying it forward, pet and RV focus. And one of the areas of paying it forward for us is featuring charities that we want to build awareness for. So does Forever Friends have a preferred charity that listeners and even us should go check out and maybe consider having a podcast with them, or just giving them some support and love and donations?
You know what? One of the biggest things I can say is there's a lot of great organizations out there that you can donate funds to, like foundations, the Petco Foundation, the Pedigree Foundation, things like that. But one of the things that really needs the most attention these days are the local, small, rural shelters. So I know it's easier for me to give you one big name, but I really would ask people to reach out to these smaller counties. It's amazing. A $25 donation goes much, much further than some of these larger shelters that you might think, because we were just at Carroll County in West Tennessee, and they are unable to have full-time staff, and they have a really hard time finding volunteers, and as well as like getting a lot of supplies that they need. So, for us to be able to give them some money, we use our Patreon as a give back. And that's something that's been near and dear to our heart. So we gave a lot of money away last year from funds that were used from our Patreon that we can say that our entire community helped support. So $1,000 went a long way to the Carroll County Humane Society.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And I probably should have specified that we, along with what sounds like you as well, we particularly pick out those smaller local charities that don't have the $100,000 marketing budgets. They aren't worldwide organizations that are getting people signed up for subscriptions every month. And they are, I'm not taking anything away from those organizations.
Oh, no.
But you definitely do need to do research whenever you're investing into pretty much any charity, even the smaller ones. And the reason why the smaller ones are easy for us is because we invest in the ones that we meet with and we have a connection with, and we get to know them. And you can see that the people working there, for the most part, are all volunteers. They're doing it out of the love of their heart to want to help. They're not drawing a salary. They're, in a lot of cases, they're not even covering their expenses. They're just looking for people like you and I to help them so they can grow their mission even further. So those are the type of charities that we typically support. And, we started local, and as we started traveling, as we meet people through our travels, and as we meet people online, we find new charities. So we just encourage you all to do the same thing. Find a charity. It doesn't even have to be pet focused. It could be a service member charity or something that has a good, positive organization, and make sure you're taking either your time or your money resources or however they need help, and helping out these charities that are trying to do good across the nation and even the world, if there's something international that you want to look into. Okay, so we've got a few more minutes left, and that's most of the questions that I wanted to talk about. Is there any specific topics that you would like to talk about or share about Forever Best Friend, or things that are coming up?
Well, we are going to be sharing more of our insider story, which is fun. So we do enjoy sharing our whole entire family and what's going on and what Rosie's doing these days and that sort of thing, which we really like. We are talking a lot more about therapy dogs. We have a couple topics that people have asked us to bring up. Therapy dogs, we do have a lot of questions about dog training and dog behavior. So that's something that I have a little experience with, and I could talk a bit more on. We're probably doing some more Yappy Hour things on that, but we love to hear from the community. We like to hear what they're interested in. We want to know what are some hot topics. Also, nutrition is a big topic these days. A lot of dogs, we talked last week, golden retrievers used to live 13, 14, 15 years, and now the average lifespan is 9. What has changed? What's happening here? What's causing that? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that are changing, and also talking about, of course, grieving, because grieving a pet, it's a very real thing, and it's very important that we don't neglect it, and we just talk about it.
That's true. Like I said, my way of grieving was I don't ever want to get another pet when we lost our. Well, when I say we lost, we had to make the choice of putting her down, and that to me was harder than.
Yeah.
I grew up with dogs, and they would get hit on roads, and rarely I can't remember any that died of old age. So it was always some type of tragic event. And then, a while later, my parents would get another dog. But as an adult, raising a dog all the way through 12 years old, and then having to make the decision to put them down because they couldn't hold their bladder anymore, and you didn't have the right facility to let them just be outside all the time, it was heartbreaking. I mean, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And that was just the way I coped with it. I just said, no more dogs. I can't deal with it. And I'm glad my wife convinced me otherwise because there is so much joy. I think if you focus on that end, it's like with anything. I mean, there's a lot of times our kids and grandkids, we're going to all outlive them, but we have all lost parents and grandparents, and we have to find a way to grieve healthily in a good way, so that you can grieve and still find joy in life and find joy in other pets and things like that. So I think that's a great topic because I probably could have used some of that when it first happened because I just internalized it. I just blocked it out. No more dogs for me. And so now we've got a channel, Pause and Effect, that's all about dogs.
That's amazing how these things happen. You just have to open up your heart. It's important. Opening up your heart to people and pets, it changes your life.
It does indeed. And in fact, that kind of drove the name of our channel, right? That effect part is really the effect not only that we can have on people and environments as we travel, and on these animals, the animals that you adopt, you change their lives. There's so many videos out there that are so inspiring. You can see this dog that looks so sad in a cage, and you can even see the videos of maybe that dog when they came in and they might have had mange or all types of health challenges, and the rescue takes them and nurses them to care, and then finds them a home, and you can see their happiness, their transition from that horrible state that they were in to this nice forever home that they have now. And so it's a beautiful thing, and that impact that you can have not only on that pet but on yourself, that it can do on your life. And then it extends for us even further, because when we take Priscilla out and we walk down the street and they see this big dog, it's kind of odd pattern because she's got a defect, she's got a lot of white, she's got a part merle coat, but people are like, is that a Great Dane? And they always want to pet her, and dogs are just, they pull people together, and it's just a great impact. So that's that effect that we talk about in our channel, is that effect these animals also have on all the people we meet and ourselves. And I'm sure it sounds like Rosie has done the same thing with lots of people in your area.
Absolutely.
So one last thing, I know we talked just a couple weeks ago about an RV specific meetup in Mayberry, at Mayberry Campground in Mount Airy. Have you decided whether you're going to be able to make that or not?
I am going to try. That is definitely on my list. I actually called and made a reservation, so we'll see. I may not be in the exact circle loop, but at least I'll be in the area. So it's going to be hard not to see me. As they say, my hair will be shining red all over the campground.
Right. Yeah, the main circle was sold out some time ago. We're a little bit up the hill, I think, from that. We're in 97, but I think there are some people staying at other campgrounds and gonna meet up there. So it'll be fun. I'm sure it's gonna be a great time. There's like 30 to 40 channels there. So October 15th through 18th, I believe, is when that's happening. So if anybody else wants to check that out, it's gonna be a great time in North Carolina in October. What a great time to be in the Smoky Mountains, right?
Absolutely gorgeous.
All right, Charlie Grace, anything else before we wrap up?
I just appreciate being able to have this conversation with y'all and answering some questions. And I just hope that our mission moves forward. I think it's wonderful that we can have this kind of positive effect on the world, and we do appreciate everyone coming together and helping everybody out.
Absolutely. Well, once again, Charlie Grace, can you share the best ways for our listeners to find and collaborate with you?
Absolutely. So they can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Forever Best Friend. And if you're a Twitter person, we are at Forever BF. So we'd love to be able to talk to people. But if you're a dog specific lover and you want to join a group and you want to chit chat, go to facebook.com/foreverbestfriend hyphen or slash dog lover group.
Great. Well, that's it for today's podcast. If you or others you know have interest in having a discussion with us in a future podcast episode, please connect with us through our webpage or any of our social media platforms. Our website is pawseffect.com. That's PAWZEFFECT.com. You can search for us on social media platforms as Pause and Effect. Until next time, we're sending positive vibes and aloha spirit. And that's all. So I appreciate you taking time. We will see you tonight on the Yappy Hour, hopefully. And I can't wait to hear more about Lucky Dog, Sue, and their new additions to their family.
Absolutely can't wait.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care.